All right, got the YouTube link. Start posting that places. Slack first. Can you promote Ben since you're co-host? And I don't know, can co-hosts promote other like people to co-hosts? I'm not sure. I haven't done that before.
Oh, about to find out.
I know you can definitely move people from attendees to the panelists, but
yeah, I promoted him to panelist. I didn't have an option for co-host.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, hey Ben.
I can't do video, but I can do audio, apparently.
Oh, good.
He's just shy.
Always.
$376 people across 9 time zones. Send. I guess maybe we can post it on the meetups too. Sometimes people appreciate that. Bobby, as a reminder, can you pull up the email about the training stuff? I don't have that handy.
Email about training stuff? Are you talking about Gene's message in the PHP Boston PHP?
Yep.
Oh, I added it to my slide deck.
Perfect. We're ready.
Do we have a Chris?
We have the speaker. That's the important part.
We don't need Chris as long as we got Pavel.
Yeah.
You there, Pavel?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Nice.
Welcome.
Are you like me and unable to share your video, or are you choosing not to share your video?
Oh, I should make him
I
a co-host.
cannot.
Yeah, hang on. Problem solved. There you go.
I'm waving like a dumbass.
It's nice to meet you, Pavel. I don't think I've. Is it weird to tell people that you nice to meet them over Zoom? Like I feel like it's still weird for me.
It's a little weird, yeah, but what can you do?
Yeah,
Maybe someday we will meet in person. Who knows?
yeah, I hope so. Come speak at Longhorn PHP.
Maybe, maybe when it's possible and safe.
True, yeah, we're committed to in-person events, and so the Open CFP is still open. So submit a talk. I'm plugging
Yes, I will see
the
you in
conference.
2025.
True.
After the pandemic's over, but then there's a variant, and we have another pandemic, and
Do you
4
guys
years
like?
will be fine.
Do you guys like my slide? Just to see the date. It's 2021, but should it be or 2020? But the 15th month of 2020. Should it be a decimal or X? I couldn't decide.
Maybe trinary. Why go with those usual things? Let's do something wild.
Yeah, I was doing like, what's 2020 times 15? And
Oh yeah.
what does that have to do with today?
See, I confused Ben. I need to change it.
Couldn't use hexadecimal? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys.
Well, should we give people a couple more minutes? It's only two after, and then we can start doing the stuff, right? Since we're all here.
Sounds good.
Chris, do you have any questions for the audience? It's for the panelists about anything in your life, photography.
Do I have questions for analysts?
I'm just trying to like fill space and like keep us talking here.
Okay.
Tell us about Shotproof.
Shootproof.
Shootproof.
Well, we're a PHP shop. So a lot of we're not really using framework. We've got mostly homegrown code. We've homegrown code. Got a few little pieces and parts of some older components of things, but yeah, basically what we do is we provide all the tools for a photographer to run their business. Like if you're a wedding photographer or a portrait photographer, something like that. We do everything from invoicing and ordering, contact management, and we've got lab partners, so you can have the photographer's clients print photos through the photographer. So we're servicing the photographer side as opposed and the business side of that as opposed to people wanting to buy their own photos. We've got pretty robust suite of end-to-end tools for all that kind of stuff. So it's been a terrific company to work for. We're an agile shop. We've been doing that for about a year or so, and getting pretty good at it. With still some things to sort out and work out, but it's been a terrific experience.
You got married. I can give you some customer feedback.
Sorry, say again. That was some noise. I missed that.
I'm saying, as someone who recently got married, I can give you some customer feedback about some common, I guess, industry issues that we've noticed.
Okay. Yeah, let us know. I mean, did you get pictured with somebody who worked for Shootproof, or are you just talking about general?
Not Shootproof. So there's this website that a lot of photographers use. You've probably heard of it. It's called PicTime, and it seems like every photographer we talk to uses that site and order photo books and stuff through their site. And it was a horrible, like the checkout process and the process of building the photo album, god awful. Like my partner spent like, I don't know, 4 hours probably on the thing, maybe even more, and it like didn't save it properly and like got wiped out the whole thing. We had to start from scratch, and we were trying to beat a deadline to get a deal. There was like a special promotion happening, and it ended at midnight, and it was awful. This site is terrible. And looking at photos on that site, like previewing your photos before you buy them and everything, was awful. It's just terrible. I could give you if you want.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of goes along with a lot of the tools and other sites out there. We're trying to, we do a lot of user surveys and UX research and things like that. So hopefully we're skipping right around those kinds of issues. We don't quite have the end to end. Like we're not equal to a Shutterfly at this point, but with the lab partners, there's pathways to get stuff done like that. It's not directly in our hands at this point.
Yeah, this site clearly does not do like proper usability testing or anything like that, or they don't get good customer feedback, or because it's really bad.
Oh, sorry you had a lousy experience with that.
It's tough to do it well. Websites and whatnot. In another life, I was a wedding photographer assistant. So, yep, it's on my bookmarks, Chris. Like I have an account. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I want to check it out.
Yeah, we're always looking for feedback and appreciate your interest, definitely.
So how's the weather in Boston? Is it cold? Like I've got the AC on now in March.
We had record high today. It was like 74 or 75, something like that in Boston.
Yep.
My Google Newsfeed said it smashed the record. I don't know exactly what that means, but
Higher than normal. Let's see what else. What video games everybody playing recently? Has anyone played Valheim yet? Or the other one that sounded pretty cool. I haven't had time to play video games. I don't know about you all, but Loop Hero. Has anyone played either of those yet?
no. I've been streaming recently. I've been streaming Far Cry 5, and I just started streaming Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past retro.
Cool. I started Far Cry 5 and it was really hard, and I died a bunch, and then I'm like, well, maybe I should not stream me being awful at this game. So, yeah.
No, it's fun. You just add some sound effects for the people in your chat so they can make fun of you when you die, and then it's like entertainment,
Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah. They can roast you live. Yep. But yeah, so I signed up for Ubisoft Plus, and it's working well with Stadia, so you get all the Ubisoft games. I started playing Valhalla a bit, but haven't had much time for that stuff.
You mean Valheim, or is Valhalla something different?
Valhalla came out in December. It was the Ubisoft Viking game.
Oh, okay.
I'm basically like a modern day Viking, so I'm like, all right, I gotta play this game.
Yeah, Valheim seems to be really popular. I haven't really played it yet, but it looks interesting.
It's breaking all sorts of records.
It almost looks like a cross between like Minecraft and like, I don't know, Rust.
Oh man, I've got some Rust stories. All right, one real quick. So this was kind of like early on in the Rust, and we built this base, and then like you basically couldn't escape, and so like we would go out and find people and be like, hey, come back and join us, and then like lure them into the base, and then like then they couldn't escape. It was kind of mean, but it was hilarious. And then like we would have our fun, and then like let them out, and then apologize, and then basically recruit them into the tribe that way.
I guess that's better than killing them and taking their stuff. This seems
Yeah.
to be the popular thing to do.
Yeah. No, we just wanted to trap them, because then and in Rust you had like voice chat, right? So you could like talk to them kind of like live, be like, oh, the door must not be working. I don't know what's wrong, because nobody knew how to play at that point, So yeah, that was fun. Good times, good times. Zimzet says he's playing Valheim. Oh, Master Pac-Man. Hey, so Gene, Stadia has this, I think, multiplayer Pac-Man. It's like similar to Super Bomberman. It's like 64-player Super Bomberman. But now that they have a Pac-Man, like big, huge multiplayer Pac-Man version, it's on Stadia, and maybe it's on other platforms too. But that was pretty interesting and fun. I haven't played. I played Super Bomberman yet, but the Pac-Man I haven't tried yet. So should we tell people how it works? I guess if we have any new people, kind of start doing intro stuff. So if you're joining us on Zoom, we also have a YouTube link, and so if somebody asks a Q&A question, we can respond to the Q&A question with the link to the YouTube. So if you have any questions for Pablo or the panelists, you're welcome to post them in the Q&A. But also, if you want to kind of like follow on and like participate in active discussion, we encourage you to join the YouTube, because that is not moderated. And so, yep, we just want the Zoom to be a safe place, and then you can go crazy on YouTube is kind of the idea. Yeah, somebody ask a question, please. What is the YouTube link? What day is it? What year is it? Anything. I don't know anymore. There we go. Thank you, Trey. I answered the question there and posted the link to the YouTube. So yes, we can see the message, and yes, everybody can now see that you asked that question. I guess, are we good to go? Is everybody ready? Pablo, like, should we start doing intro stuff? Okay, cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll go first, and then pass the mic over to whoever wants to go next. Let me pull up my webpage with my stuff and switch the things over. All right. Okay. I think I am ready to go now. Doing this on the fly. So thank you so much for joining us, March. This is Merge PHP. We are a combination of Boston PHP, Atlanta PHP, and Austin PHP. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate everyone that's here. And I wanted to remind everybody that these meetup groups are only as good as the work that we put into it, and it really requires everybody's contributions, whether that is as an attendee or as a speaker. If you're ever considered giving a talk, please consider putting together a proposal and clicking on, I think this link still goes to it. I didn't double check that, but yeah, I updated the link. There's a sign up form. So if you fill out the survey, it will email the 3 organizers with what your talk is about, and then we can get you booked. So I think that's super important. I want to mention that up front. But I really appreciate you all, and I hope that you all are doing well given the state of the world. I am really excited about this talk. And before we kind of pass it over to the other organizers, just a few words here about Austin PHP and things that I think can help the community. So Austin PHP is the longest running tech group here in Austin. And we've been around since 2002. So hopefully next year we can throw a big party and buy everyone alcohol and have a good time. I'm saying that now, and now, you know, now I need to make that happen, but I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe we'll do it a part of the conference. We'll make it a part of the conference. And so the conference that I am mentioning here is Longhorn PHP. We're carrying the torch from the conference that Dallas PHP started. And so Longhorn PHP is the Austin-based regional conference. As I mentioned earlier, we're dedicated to in-person events, and Open CFP is still open. The CFP is still open. The Open CFP is the software we use. Yeah, I'm like speaking words. And so, keep an eye on the webpage and sign up for notifications about that. Obviously, we're selling tickets. That's that. And the other thing that I want to mention here, my last little words, is PHP Ops on Medium. So this is a publication that I started 6 months ago. We are writing about PHP or DevOps. So if you ever want to do any blogging, this is not tied to any of my company stuff. I am definitely looking for more writers. So get in touch with me. I would love to have more contributions. I am right now just doing like content link aggregation. I posted one. I've got two kind of in the pipeline that I'm thinking about. Yeah, definitely hit me up. Much appreciated. And that's that. Take it away, whoever's next.
Chris, you want to go next?
Sure, no problem.
Oh wait, Chris is not co-host. Okay.
And share also.
Make co-host. Go ahead.
All right. Just a quick bit from us. Was usually is a abridged version of our usual announcements and things. We're Atlanta PHP. I've been around since about 2004. I just want to mention. Slide here. We have a video archive at our site for all our meetings. I'll mention that after this slide, but just want to thank our sponsor, Variux.com. It's a local development shop from one of our members. They have been historically a Magento integration kind of shop, but they're doing a little more custom development these days, less specific to Magento. So anyway, we'd like to just thank David Edmondson for his sponsorship and support of our group and our video archive. We outside of Meetup, we have atlantaphp.org, where we've got the mentioned video archive, our message board. It's a Google group for job postings and whatever discussions. Pretty low traffic, so we'd love to see some more activity there. You'll find all our info at atlantaphp.org. Also, I have a JetBrains IDE license to give away from their user group program. So I guess maybe I'm thinking how we did this before.
The first person to email is, I think, how we did it last month.
Yeah, that's I think is probably kind of worked the smoothest. So it's, if you see this one here, chris@atlantaphp.org. If you'll mail me there, interested. It's a 1-year license that you can apply to an existing license. So if you already have any of the JetBrains IDEs, it doesn't have to be PHP Storm. You can get another year added to your license. So let me know if you're interested. And I'll mention at the probably in chat here, if I get an email pretty fast, I'll let y'all know in chat so I don't get 37 more emails. There's not that many people here, but anyway, you know what I mean. So I guess we'll turn it over to Bobby or Ben.
There we go. You should be able to see my screen now. Yeah, ignore that. That's the old. So
my pizza, Bobby.
yeah, right. This is what we normally do at Boston PHP meeting when the pandemic's over. So I'm Bobby. I'm the lead organizer of Boston PHP, along with my co-organizer Gene, who is, I believe, in the chat. We're based on Meetup. It's meetup.com/BostonPHP. We're also on. We also send out announcements on Twitter. A private group on Facebook, and basically if you join us on Facebook, we just make sure that you don't have like a sketchy spam looking account, because we've had people spam the user group before, and we want to protect one of our big things is protecting our users from spam. So we just make sure that you don't have a sketchy looking account, and if you join, we almost always just click accept unless it just looks really sketchy. Same thing with LinkedIn. We have a private group, same deal, just request to join. We'll usually approve it same day. We've been around since 2002. So God, that's almost 20 years now. We've been doing in-person meetups since 2000. We've had approximately, so this is an estimate because Meetup doesn't let you see the more, but I'm estimating that we've had about 279 meetings. Either that, or I'm estimating that there's not 279, maybe 230 or 240 of those were in-person meetings. And we currently have, last I checked, 3,841 members. Our focus is on education, number one, and then an idea sharing, which is kind of also education, and then promoting open source. Open source is kind of one of the reasons why PHP is so successful. And I guess the free part of free and open source is more why PHP is so successful, or so widespread anyway. But we like this. And if you have any ideas for open source, or you want to propose like an event where we can do something that promotes open source, definitely contact me. The way we do these three things, by through in-person meetups, self-study groups, and I keep saying I got to take the new off of this, and I keep forgetting. Meetups. Hopefully we, maybe we'll continue these after the pandemic, but hopefully we won't have to for much longer. And the self-study groups I'll get into in a minute are run by Gene, my co. Again, there's the meetup link, and if you want to contact us, you can contact us through Meetup. I'm Bob. For anything, basically anything that doesn't have to do with virtual self-study, you contact me. Virtual self-study related stuff, contact Gene. And this is the next virtual self-study group that's starting up. So let me to give it. I'll try to give a quick description. The idea was that we spend 2 to 3 hours in person, but then what do we do with the other, couple hundred hours every? Gene's idea was to create a kind of like a study group where we meet online, or you basically, like we created it as a meetup event, but you sign up for the meetup event, and then we all choose a book to learn from, and then I think it's every week we publish our exercises from the book. Like we do like a chapter a week, and then publish our exercises on the meetup forum, and we help each other out. Everybody in the group helps each other out learning the subject, and it's worked really well for a lot of people. And this is our next event is March 28th. It's all the seasons are named their food related names. This one is JavaScript broth. The first one was PHP perk, and was it HTML5 brunch was one of them. So they all have a food related name. So that brings us to tonight's presentation, and I'm going to let Ben introduce that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah.
Speaker tonight is Pavel. They're going to teach us about Unicode, as you can see here. Apologies, Pavel. I have no idea how to pronounce your last name, so I'm going to stick with your first name. Pavel's a coworker of mine and Bobby's here at Wayfair, working on the PHP platforms team. They're a senior engineer working in Berlin. And Pavel jumped in to save the day when our previous speaker plans didn't pan out. So really want to thank you for that, Pavel. And I'll pass it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Welcome to this presentation that I am totally prepared for. I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? I'm reading the YouTube comments. Okay, I see Bobby acknowledging. Yes, so I will talk about Unicode and how to avoid trouble with it. So maybe let's start with the question of what is Unicode? And basically, like the most important thing is that it assigns a number to any character in any alphabet that is universal. And yeah, basically that is Unicode. The other 1,000 pages of the standards, that's just implementation details, and you don't need to know that. So yeah, that's basically all you need to know. Oh, looks like I got an email. Yeah, somebody wants me to write this program that compares two lists of files. That's easy, right? I'm not busy with anything, so I can get right to it and start writing the program. It's not like I am doing anything important right now, right? So yeah, we have this little program. It does all the important things. It detects the encoding of the file. It converts it to UTF-8 if it's something else. It also prints out the lengths of the files and, of course, tells us if the files are equal. It works, right? The lengths are okay. We created files both with one word, 5 characters each. If we compare two different files, it tells us they are not equal. If we compare a file with itself, it tells us that they are equal. So everything is fine, right? We are happy. But, well, now there is a German word, and German words are hard and make my life hard. So, yeah, I was never good at maths, but this to me seems like 6 characters. But the program tells us that there's 7. That doesn't exactly seem right. So, of course, let's look at the PHP documentation. strlen, which we are using, it gets the string length. So, yeah, there's nothing unexpected here. It should just work, right? But let's look at another page in the documentation, the one that explains how strings work. And this one is where it gets interesting, because for PHP, a byte and a character are always the same thing, and PHP does not support Unicode in its core. There was an attempt on that with PHP 6, but it never happened. So I keep using the names like Unicode and UTF-8 without really explaining. So Unicode is the standard that defines the characters and gives them numbers. And UTF-8 is the byte-oriented encoding form of Unicode. So it's basically a way of converting those numbers that are assigned to characters into other numbers, which are what is actually stored in a file. So basically, it takes the bits and moves them around. So for things that only use 7 bits so the first 128 characters, they are encoded as 1 byte starting with 0, but for bigger values, the bits move around and the encoded value can be 2, 3, or 4 bytes. So yeah, now we can look at the word that means pumpkin, by the way. And this is how it is encoded as UTF-8. So now we see that the U with an umlaut is encoded as 2 bytes. So that's why strlen was giving us the wrong answer. So yes, we can work back and look at the 2 bytes for the U with umlaut and try to move the bits. So the Y's here are in yellow and the X's are in blue. So we can move them back to the scalar value, and this gives us 2 bytes. One of them is 0, the other one is FC. And now if we look at the character table in the Unicode standard, we will see that indeed this is this letter. Everything is fine. There are also other encodings of Unicode. One of them is UTF-16. So that is one where the smallest unit is 2 bytes, and some characters can be expressed as 2 of those units. And there's also UTF-32, which basically stores the numbers as literal bytes. So yeah, it's easier to implement and faster to do some operations on it, but it takes up more memory because even for example, English text, which could be encoded as 1 byte per character in UTF-8, you need 4 bytes per character in UTF-32. So now with all that knowledge, we can fix the program. This is easy thanks to the mbstring extension, which is included with PHP. So we call the mbstrlen function. And it's important to note here that technically this function takes the encoding as a second argument, I believe. But there is also a global encoding, and by default, it's UTF-8. And many libraries have workarounds for when you change the default, but in practice, you probably are going to have a bad time if you change it, so please don't do it. So in this case, it uses UTF-8, and I'm going to continue with that assumption. So now we can test the fixed program, and it works. It tells us that there are 6 characters. We are comparing the same file with itself, so it's equal. Everything is fine. But, well, we got another email. Everything is horrible. There is one supplier which is, again, giving us wrong length, but we fixed it. So, yeah, let's look again. Yeah, so we have the weird pumpkin file with the weird thing, and it looks identical to the other pumpkin. But the weird file is actually showing us 7 characters and thus not equal. So to understand what is happening here, we first need to understand what really is a character. And in the Unicode standard, there is no such thing. Like, you can search the standard, but it does not define what a character is. Instead, it defines code points, which are the things that have numbers. And this is where it gets interesting because, well, not all of them are characters. And also some are combining characters. So here you have the circumflex accent, but it works when it's after some other character. So you can have, for example, letter A followed by the combining circumflex accent, and then you will get a letter A with that accent. And yeah, there are hieroglyphs, there is the Korean alphabet, for example, the Latin alphabet, some control characters, and many others, of course. So you can represent the letter U with an umlaut or a diaeresis in two ways. It has its own code point, which is DC, but you can also represent it as the letter U followed by a combining diaeresis. So this is two code points that represent one, what we would call a character. So the Unicode standards also defines a grapheme cluster. And this is like the one logical unit in a language. So that's what I would say I intuitively think is a character. So that's the letter L, that's this U with a diaeresis. This is this Hangul syllable, which I cannot pronounce, I'm sorry. And yes, those are logically in the language they belong to, they are one unit, each of them. So their relationship between the code points and characters is not one-to-one. And there is a process called normalization, which basically decomposes and composes again the characters in a predictable, defined way. So some of them will always be combined, some of them will always use the combining characters. This is especially important when you have multiple accents on a single letter. So to fix our program, we will need to do two things. First, we will need to normalize the strings that we are working on. So they are using the same normalization form, so we can compare them because they were decomposed into the characters followed by the combining characters, and then some of them are combined again in a strictly defined way. And then instead of using the MB strlen, we can use the grapheme strlen function, which will give us the number of grapheme clusters in that string. So now when we run this program, it works. Everything is nice. But again, we have a problem. They are using Excel. I mean, that's not what they think the problem is, but that really is the problem. But let's work on what we can fix. So there is some file that we got from Excel and it isn't working. Let's look at it. So this is the file and it seems like it's using some other encoding. But that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because we are using .mb detect encoding and UTF-8 encode, and everything is fine. But here, for some reason, our program is just crashing miserably. The weird files. Thank you, Catherine. I didn't know that. Yeah, so it's crashing on the second file. Yeah, showing the files as not equal. So let's look at the documentation again. The UTF encode function, like, it cannot encode anything from some magical format. It has to know what the input data is encoded as. So it just has a very unfortunate name, but what it really does, it converts from one encoding to another one. So if the input string is not in that ISO 88591, then this will produce bad results. So let's fix our program, and instead of using the UTF-8 encode, we can use iconv, which is a conversion function. We get the detected encoding here, we pass it as the input encoding and convert to UTF-8 as the output encoding. And everything should be fine. But it isn't, because life is hard. So maybe let's take a step back and maybe let's look at MB detect encoding and yeah, just write this very simple program and see what it does. Well, it's telling us that that file that we clearly saw is not UTF-8. It's telling us that it is. And the problem here is simple. Encoding detection just doesn't work. You just get a bunch of bytes. You can say that they are valid or not valid in a certain encoding, but it's still just a bunch of bytes. So you have to understand the meaning of the text to be able to say if it makes sense. So the only thing that we can really do here is do an MB check encoding. So this will validate if the content is valid in the encoding. So UTF-8 in our case, and then just throw exception and try to explain to people how to export files from Excel in a different encoding, which is very easy, trust me. So, okay, we taught them how to do that because we are good. And now they have another problem. The files are sorted in different ways. Our program doesn't do any sorting, so let's add that. Also, there are differences in the upper and lower case. So yeah, we can fix that. It's easy. Yeah, let's just do sorting on all the lines, and then we lowercase them when we want to compare them. We use the mbstr to lower because that is the function that will support UTF-8. So let's test it on the German alphabet. We have it in random order. We're compiling it with itself, and it's telling us that the files are not equal. And it looks like this letter is getting sorted in different places depending on the lower and upper case. So that's a bit unfortunate. But the solution is easy because when we remember that PHP doesn't support Unicode, then we will know that sort is just trying to sort bytes instead of trying to sort the actual code points or graphemes. So it should be easy. We just need to use some comparison function that takes that into consideration. So let's try. Maybe there is mbstr cmp, which would make sense, right? No, there isn't. Let's look at the documentation. Well, the reason that it doesn't exist is that there is just no way to sort the characters in any meaningful way without having the context of the language. If we look at the Hungarian and German alphabet here, for example, we have the same letter at different positions, and this one too. It's exactly the same letter. There, you know, it has the same name, etc., the same code point number, but it's sorted differently depending on the language. Also, there is a problem with the comparison. In the Turkish language, for example, there are different rules for the letter I. There is a dotless I, which is a bit different from the English one, for example, where in English the uppercase I does not have a dot, but the lowercase does. In Turkish, there are two variants. One is the dotless, and the other one is with dots. So yes, sorting and case are language specific, and we have to consider that. So let's do this little fix. Let's use the collator. That's from the ENTL extension, which is also distributed with PHP. it takes the locale name as an argument, so we will just take it from the command line. The strength basically tells it how closely it should match the characters when it's comparing them, like should it take accents into consideration, etc. This depends on the language, so it works a bit differently for each language. And yeah, we also replace so we do both the sorting and the comparison using the collator. And now let's run it. So it sorted the alphabet, but if you saw my previous slides and remember the details, then you saw that the letters with accents were at the end, and here they are not. But this is not an error, because the order of the letters in the alphabet is not necessarily the correct order for sorting. So, yeah, like in this example, technically the order of the letters in the German alphabet is that the accented ones are at the end. But if you look through a phone book, for example, you will see them among the other letters. So, yes, this is basically it. Let's just look at the conclusions that I hope you will remember. So yes, I think this is the most important one. I've seen a lot of code that uses that MB detect encoding and then UTF-8 encode pattern. And really all it does is garble the text if it's not UTF-8. So yeah, if you don't know the encoding, you don't know what the numbers mean. You just have a bunch of numbers. Yes, when you are doing things like lowercasing or uppercasing or other manipulations, then the language might matter, like with Turkish, for example. And yes, the same text can be represented differently in Unicode. So if you want to compare something, it's important to normalize it. This is all I had. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pavel. Let's open it up for questions here. I wrote down a few here myself, but if the floor is everyone's, so go ahead and ask the question through the Q&A function via Zoom, or hit us up on the YouTube chat if you have any questions for Pavel. I guess I'll go ahead with my first one, but I wanted to comment that I love that the German U sort of looks like the smile emoji. That's how I always think of like emojis when I'm like looking at the umlaut. The first, I guess maybe as a comment, is on some of the slides, there was like the triple equals comparison operator, and it looked like it didn't have any spaces. I just wanted to make sure that like there wasn't like some Unicode like comparison operator that was added that I missed.
No, this was the normal comparison operator.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's like a comment, but the first question is, do you know how JavaScript stores Unicode by default?
I believe it's UTF-16 in most cases, or it might be actually UCS2, which is a legacy standard that UTF-16 is based on, but it has limitations in the characters that it can display. Yes, I think it's UCS16 because I remember that there is a problem with JavaScript that the usual methods of checking the length of the screen will return 2 for emojis.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's JavaScript and PHP go hand in hand together. And I'm kind of like wondering, like, do some of the problems happen because they have different ways to store and deal with Unicode. I guess the second question maybe that you could comment on is, I know security is a big thing for me, and I know Unicode exists in URLs currently with like the Chinese TLDs, and maybe emoji domains are coming. Maybe they are here. I think
they are here.
Yeah, emoji
it's
domains exist. And so, do you know, like, when you're sanitizing inputs and kind of and working with Unicode, how is that impacted?
That's an interesting question. It, of course, depends on what you're really trying to protect yourself against. Like, in most cases, you can just take the text and display it. But there are some interesting things. Like, for example, there is a character in Unicode which switches the text direction from left to right to left, or vice versa. And that was actually used for some domain names. So they had some part flipped and they looked like they were some other domain.
Huh.
I believe there was some mitigation for that in Chrome so that it shows it that something is wrong, but yeah.
Fixed it in the browser. So yeah, I don't know if you or anyone, I guess, is like when you're doing like filter var, and filter var, you can pass in kind of like some different parameters to control like what it strips out. But and I don't know off the top of my head, does filter var strip out Unicode?
No, it does not.
Okay.
I believe it doesn't understand Unicode at all.
Interesting. Well, at least it doesn't, remove it. Yeah. Those were my questions. I enjoyed the talk. Thank you for staying up so late. I know, what time is it there?
1:52 a.m.
Nice. Burned in the midnight oil.
Yes, I see one more question for Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
About Unicode issues for emojis. Yeah, so this is a bit of a historical issue, because in very early versions of the Unicode standards, that was like in the late 90s, there was actually space only for 16 bits, so 65,000 characters. And that's how the UCS2 encoding appeared. So it was basically those 16 bits in a sequence in a file. But then they just ran out of space and they had to do something. So they created the UTF-16 standard, and Unicode itself now allows up to 21 bits for the character identifier. So UTF-16 is an extension of UCS2. There are basically some special characters called the surrogate pairs. So you put two of them side by side and they are interpreted as one value. So many things that support UCS2 but don't support UTF-16 will break for emojis, for example, or also some newer Chinese, Korean, and Japanese characters, because they see two characters.
Hopefully that answered your question, Catherine. If you have any more specific questions for Pavel around emojis and Unicode, definitely let us know. Does Zimzat have a question? Or I think those were comments. What about our wonderful panelists? Ben, Bobby, Chris, putting you guys on the spot.
nothing special for me. Thank you very much, Pavel. I appreciate your time and staying up so late with us.
I'm good. Thank you. That was fun.
Same here. Thanks, Pavel.
Well, awesome. I guess we can stick around for a few minutes here and kind of check in and see if anybody wants to last minute questions. But yeah, thank you so much, Pavel, for speaking this month. We really appreciate it. And hopefully you can come back and join us in the future.
Yes, maybe even in person. Who knows?
That's right. Longhorn in October. Yeah, or 2021, 2022. So, yep.
Then you can actually get some sleep after.
Adjust to our time zone. Awesome. Well, it's Friday tomorrow. Everybody excited for the weekend? Catch up on sleep?
I have a toddler. I don't catch up on sleep anymore.
Yeah, your kids just are like 24/7.
Not quite that, but I don't get to sleep in like I used to.
Yep, sleep is important. I've been having some interesting listening and having some interesting conversations on sleep. And there's this morning show that I'm like in, and they had somebody like PhD person that was wrote a book about like all about sleep, and it was super interesting. I don't have the book. I'd have to go through my notes. But speaking of which, what are you guys using for notes? I was like an Evernote user for forever. But does anybody like on like the Notion hype train?
What is Notion?
Notion is
Never heard of Notion.
oh yeah, so it's like Notion.so or Notion.no or something. We got a weird name. But it does note taking, but like you can do project management with it. Like you can collaborate with people. It's super cool. There's a lot of like startups now that like you can make web pages from it. You can I saw so you can write out your whole like little Notion page, and then there's like some JavaScript bundle that will like build a website from your Notion docs. Like there's all sorts of crazy things you can do with it. Evernote was giving me some problems, and so I've been trying to like learn Notion a little bit more. They do some other really cool things where you can have kind of like a spreadsheet kind of thing inside of it, and you can have like linked spreadsheets. So like link together your data in it. So kind of like do relational database like in a spreadsheet sort of with it, which is it's pretty rad. Yep. So I don't own any stock in Notion, so but yeah, that's my 2 cents on Notion. Right. Well,
I'd used Evernote for a while, but just kind of fell out of the habit and didn't use a lot of the features, honestly. And lately I've been using Bear as just simple markdown, but really notes, not integrated sheets and pushing to the web and all kinds of whiz bang stuff. Just keep it simple. Really just notes. The temporary clipboard in a lot of cases. If I want to grab a couple links or a bunch of text and do other stuff and come back to it. But I tend to, I've got plenty of other tools for other stuff, and so I try to keep it simple and I don't need complicated.
yeah, Bear's pretty nice. Like I love that they do Markdown really well. I checked them out a while back when I was like working on kind of like figuring out a good medium workflow. You know, I was like looking for markdown tools. Yeah. So how long have you been using Bear?
Probably maybe a year or so, just kind of intermittently. I'm certainly not a power user, but you know, it's just like I said, simple use case, does the job. I could probably just use, you know, the what's the default Mac thing, text edit, you know, like the Mac equivalent of Notepad on Windows. You know, I don't do a whole ton of formatting and stuff with it, but I should probably learn a little better than I have. But it does what I need right now. So
It's something that drove me nuts about Evernote, and I don't know if Bear does this. I don't remember when in my testing, but Evernote, like if you copy in a command, you know, like PHP --var or version, then like it would autocomplete the 2 dashes to 1 dash, and then so then like if you recopy that same command back into the command line, then it's like you know, unknown command doesn't work. Yeah, so I don't know, like there's like some weird quirks with Evernote, and you know, Notion has got its own little weird quirks, but I've had to get used to like debugging my note editor.
It's similar if you ever used like Microsoft Word or something to copy paste a command, like, or share a command, and like Microsoft Word will change your double quotes to like quotes, which is a different character, and then like you run the command and it fails and it takes forever to figure out why.
It's like trying to be helpful, but really not. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I use a combination of just like and just raw text files. I use Atom text editor for Mac, and that usually gets me. I use Evernote. It's kind of a legacy tool that I have, but there's a select few things I keep track of in Evernote. For the most part, I don't need it. I don't use it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to stop using Evernote. It's really integrates well with Scanner, and I haven't found anything else that has like direct, like you know, scan this, turn it to a PDF, OCR it, and then now I can search, you know, search on that scanned document. So that's super helpful that I like about Evernote. I haven't found anything to replace that. I wanted to mention also in my research, you guys should check out Dropbox has a new thing called Paper, and you can create markdown files like directly in Dropbox, and then like edit them there. That was kind of cool. I like that feature. But yeah, I was looking for a way that I could easily copy the output, the markdown rendered HTML directly into Medium, and then not have any like spacing or syntax issues with that. And what I came up with was just doing it in like a GitLab repo, just like writing markdown in whatever editor you want on your desktop, and then like committing it to GitHub or GitLab, and then copying the, you know, the rendered HTML from that into Medium, and it works perfectly. I've tried Coda. There was issues. I tried a bunch of different ones, and like copy and pasting the rendered HTML, I was always having problems. And yeah, I just wanted like something that was better, that did a better job of keeping track of the changes. And then I'm like, oh wait, what tool do I already use that's really good at keeping track of the changes? And then I'm like, okay, like let's try like Git, and yeah, it works perfectly. We totally went off on a big tangent about taking notes.
I think Trey, you have your hand raised.
yeah, allow.
Do we have a way for Trey to speak, or is he going to type it in the Q&A?
I think type it in the Q&A, or yeah, we can bring him up.
Hey, I'm unmuted now, I think.
Hi, Trey.
Hey, mean, it's going to sound simple, but I mean, yeah, I actually pay for the Office 365 myself, but I think, for anybody that already has that already works and has 365 provided, OneNote is there, and I mean, it may not be quite as built out as Evernote, but I find it to be pretty substantially like organized for the stuff I need.
Yeah, that's awesome. I use like all the note taking tools. So I definitely use OneNote. I've been using OneNote to keep track of my D&D sessions because it works well on my Windows computer. I'm usually doing D&D on the Windows. Sorry, Chris, were you going to say something? I saw you unmuted.
Nope.
We got a +1 for OneNote from the room over here.
Nice.
Well, I wonder
nice.
how well some of the other ones, I mean, for anybody that has a Surface or anything like that, like for people that like jotting notes down like by hand, because I know that's a thing that they say you can remember it better if you're actually like, using the tactile motion of writing it. But as opposed to typing your notes out. Say if you're, notes for listening to something as opposed to just putting a note.
Yeah, the typing and the repetition definitely helps, right? Like, that's a good way to kind of like remember like passwords and stuff. Is like, open up a text document and then just type it a bunch. So, yep. But what are some favorite OneNote features?
Well, I mean, I guess, for the most part, it starts with being connected to OneDrive. So it's on any machine that you get OneDrive connected to, and ergo your phone or whatever mobile solution. But everything, it's organized in a way that's it's probably typical of other applications. I just noticed my microphone's probably hanging down. So everything's starts with notebook, and then there's a section, and then there's pages per section. So it makes it easy to divide it out into, that way you're not just shoving all your notes together in one thing. They're as if there are separate notebooks. But again, I would imagine the other quality note-taking ones have a similar organization of that, or structure to like something like that.
Yeah, OneNote definitely has its own like interesting way to organize things. I think they all do them differently, like their organization approach. Let me ask you this, because you're more of a OneNote user. Do they have tags? Can you tag things in there?
Now, keep in mind they are adding new features all the time. I haven't really found the need for the tags so much because the search is so robust. If I search for a partial word, I can see every single notebook page or section that it's in.
Yeah, the Notion search is sometimes I doesn't do a very good job of like finding the right thing. I'm kind of like used to the search in Evernote, and then like I guess I don't use OneNote as much, and I'm like, oh, I put it in this section, or like I can like drill down to that thing that I want in OneNote quicker, and I don't need to use the search as much. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Windows search has been garbage for years, so it's kind of hard to trust it. I'm sure it's riding about on the same backbone, but
yeah, probably. Like, can you search your OneNote from Windows Search? I haven't tried that before either.
Oh, actually, well, I haven't. I just use what's on that left pane. I know you could. I mean, this. It's like anything, or it's like Excel. I mean, if you've, 90% of people only use 10% of the features. So I mean, I've never
Yeah.
done dictation into it, but supposedly I can do that. I don't know how how accurate it is, or if it's double or triple nine accuracy on the word, on the translation. Hard to say, but I mean, for my purposes, it's definitely pretty. I have must be 12 different notebooks. There's a notebook for projects that I'm doing in the yard. There's a notebook for my running, and then of course there's a number of notebooks for different programming, web design concepts, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, I don't know about anybody else, but like the older I get, like it's like I have to keep track of things in the notes. It's like super helpful for me to keep my thoughts organized, and then go back and look for that thought that I had.
Well, see, so my problem with that is those type of tangents distract me from what I'm working on. So I even have a page in another notebook called breadcrumbs. It's just a little something for me to put, something that crosses my mind. I'll put it there, and that way I can have it there and keep, spend the next half hour without getting distracted, and then just come back to it. So I just put these little breadcrumbs for myself.
Cool.
That's just the But again, so I mean, it's technically free, right? I mean, I'm not explicitly paying for this. And then for most people that are using it, 365 for their job, which is 90% of the workforce, then
Yeah,
then they've already got it and already got access to it. I guess. Well, the only danger in that is you put it all on your employer OneDrive, and
true.
then you leave that employer, and then that it may be tied in with the OneNote or the OneDrive that's connected with your work email. So
You just work for yourself, and then you can expense this sort of stuff.
That's technically what I'm doing now.
My partner wanted to point out that they use at her job, they use Microsoft 360, 365.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things for OneNote, one of the biggest reasons why she loves it is the fact that you can share notebooks pretty seamlessly.
Oh, cool.
Right. Well, that would be for people in Teams, and I don't mean Microsoft Teams, but just Teams. You're right. That would be a big one. I mean, there's it's so the OneDrive can go really deep. I mean, it's it does get to the point where when it's all this was like just a kind of a fantasy world 10 years ago. There was no real way of doing this, but for anybody that doesn't use it, if you've used anything like Google Sheets where two people can work on a document simultaneously, that didn't exist before OneDrive and before it was all really integrated. So, but lately that's a pretty
Yeah, all the other ones, like you have to pay $5 or $10 more to collaborate with people, or they're like invite your entire organization to the tool, and then like for big organizations it doesn't make sense, and you're like, well, I just really want 5 out of 50, or so. You definitely get a lot through the Office or Office 365. What was it called now? Microsoft 365.
I think they just changed it. Yeah. Microsoft 365.
But yeah, OneDrive is great. Like for storing stuff, that 1 terabyte is pretty nice.
It all ends up being. So that's the way they've licensed that out. I mean, it can work for companies with 10,000 people. It can work for 1,000, or it's even good enough for just one person to use, because if you're already paying some other storage, say, I don't know, Google or whatever they're offering lately for 50 gigs or 100 gigs or 200 gigs, but you get I think you get something like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't even looked at it.
the amount of storage is higher than the others for sure.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, is it a terabyte? That would be
it is
ridiculous.
a terabyte. Yeah,
All right.
it is.
So I don't have anything even remotely near that, but I like how I can like throw installers or stuff like that. I can just throw all that on there. And I mean, I have so many devices. I mean, I have, you know, a couple of laptops, my
Yeah, it works on everything now.
Workstation. So as long as I'm connected to OneDrive, so.
Well, Trey, I don't want to like have a whole nother like talk on note taking and whatnot. I mean, if you want to make a presentation and make it somehow related to PHP, hit us up.
There we go. Yeah, sir. I got carried away. That was all that coffee this morning.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. I'm just going to wrap it up here. But definitely check it out next month. I believe we've already got a speaker lined up, so we'll get the meeting announcement out earlier this time. But yeah, thanks again for coming to Merge PHP March 2021. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Later.
Thanks, everybody.